Hi, I'm Gail Borger. I'm from southeastern Wisconsin, and I write funny murder mystery. It's a kind of a combination of Irma Bombeck and the Three Stooges. Totally Buzzed was my first full length, and it was about four sisters. One's an ex-detective, and the sister who is a biology teacher decides to help her find a murderer. They find a body under Mom's farmhouse, and they kind of trip, stumble, and fall down, and finally end up going to South America and then coming back. And Buzz Miller is my main character. She also is the most incredibly bad gardener in the entire world, so I call her the Black Thumb Gardener. My second book is Totally Fishy, which is its series. Third book is Totally Evil. It will be out in print in a couple weeks. And my other, Death of a Garden Hoe. I originally wrote this for reluctant reader teens, and it was used as a summer reading program in coordination with the Federal Coalition for Literacy, and it was a series of 6 short ebooks. And because I'm a master gardener, I wanted to write about gardening, so what I did was I made a garden center, a place where kids in trouble could go and get their counseling and their education and perform their community service. So when they're on their way home from the firehouse from planting flowers, they trip over a dead prostitute in an alley and they have to investigate, and that's where Death of a Garden Hoe comes from. It's funny, it's touching, and it sells very well.
We're at Printers Row's Festival in Chicago, and I'm interviewing myself because I'm a humor writer, and I wrote this stuff here. I have Bunkin' Heads, which is a parody of the Iraq War. I have the guidebook, which has been in the Chicago Trib. It's been in the Chicago Trib and in Cynic magazine. Bunkin' Heads is my parody of the Iraq War. And The Adventures of Guy, which gets compared to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by reviewers. So my stuff is all kind of wacky. I've got a young adult line with Fangface and Werewolf, so they're parodies of werewolves and vampires. And the way I started writing is I'm a business columnist, and I write a regular column that has to do with law. So I started picking on attorneys and calling them poo-poo heads and weasels, and it got kind of popular. So I decided to write a book where attorneys were the bad guys in it. So that's my tale, and you can get back to the other people. Thank you. You can visit me at www.normcowie.com. That's COWIE. Thank you.
Hey, I'm from Southern Indiana. I'm a retired school teacher. I taught English for 34 years, and now I'm going to book fairs and having a wonderful time. I started writing short stories and articles, and I sent them to Christian magazines, educational magazines, and mystery magazines. And then I started writing my first set of novels. I wrote a mystery series called the Margot Brown series, and those novels are entitled Why Johnny Died, Death of a Hoosier Schoolmaster, and The Curriculum Murders. And they all feature Margot Brown, amateur sleuth. They're all set in Indiana in schools. They've been especially popular with teachers and Indiana Hoosier readers. I was invited to visit schools, and they'd always ask me what had I written for kids, and I really hadn't written anything for young people. So I decided to write a pair of preteen novels. So I wrote my first preteen novel, which is called The Secret of Bailey's Chase, and it's about 2 girls that solve crimes, and they have supernatural powers. This is a fun, wholesome book set in Indiana. And then as the sequel, I wrote another book about the same girls called Back to Bailey's Chase, again, set in Indiana. 2 girls. This is popular among the preteen crowd, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. So I'm here today, having a good time. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Louisa Bueller. I'm talking to you from Printers Row, 2013, downtown Chicago. Great place to be. Always a wonderful time. Sharing space with book lovers, book readers. I write the Grace Marsden Mystery Series. Grace is an amateur sleuth who's obsessive compulsive. Aren't we all a little bit? She gets involved in solving cold cases, and wherever the bones are discovered, well, I just had to put a ghost story in there because I think Chicagoans and readers in general love ghost stories. So this book in particular, The Innkeeper and Unregistered Death, this is a book about what happens when they're remodeling an old boarding house and they discover remains from a runaway slave. Each one is an interesting cold case. The most recent one in the series, The Reenactor, This is what happens when reenactors are shooting and they don't realize they have live ammunition in their musket. When they sound the all clear, someone doesn't stand up. And the cold case there is a Civil War lieutenant who was falsely accused of stealing a gold shipment. So each one takes you back in time to solve the mystery that has come to light in present time. I hope you will read my books in print or they're on Kindle and Nook. Thanks so much and have a great day at Printers Row.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Whitsett, and we're here at 2013 Printers Row, Lit Fest. I'm the author of several mysteries. The first one that I have is The Wrong Guy, which is actually based on the Michigan murders of the late 1960s that happened between Eastern Michigan University and the University of Michigan. I was actually a college freshman at the time of John Norman Collins' arrest, which gave me the idea to write this book. My second and third books are part of a series, the Samantha series, which has as its heroine a school teacher, kind of an unlikely heroine, but she becomes involved in a mystery surrounding one of her students and also her husband's missing passport. The series is based, one book is based upon the other, although they are able to be read separately. That's my story from Printers Row. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Sean Hayden, and this is
Jen Wiley.
And this is our third annual Printers Row that we've been here in Chicago, beautiful downtown, selling our books. Jen has.
Sweet Light.
You want to tell a little bit
No.
about it? No? All right. Mine is My Soul to Keep. This is my latest full-length release. It's about a boy who sells his soul for his fondest wish, and he ends up becoming a demon.
No. I'm not talking.
No? And Jen's book, Sweet Light, is a fantasy romance about a healer, and that's this Printers Row is a little special to us because we actually got engaged. So I proposed yesterday, right in the middle of the tent. Hold it up. So I wrote the proposal in the dedication of one of our books, and she read it, and I was hiding behind her, and she was very, very, very surprised.
And I said yes.
That's the important part.
Hello, my name is Michael F. Blake, author of The Holy City. It's a story about two brothers coming up on the west side of Chicago, a place where crime is irregular. In this book, I show two brothers going through different trials and tribulations. I show how the lack of a male role model can affect the kid's mindset at times. And I kind of show how peer pressure forces you to make wrong decisions. And in this book, it kind of puts you in the mind of what's going on in today's world with our urban community. When you're stuck in a poverty-stricken community, you do things that you wish you don't have to do to make ends meet. And that's what's going on with these two brothers. One is into sports, and the other one, he do street things. He do things that makes money illegally, but he's trying to make a better way. He's trying to find a way out as well. So I show the good and the bad of the street life. Well, what you think is good, but ultimately it turns out to be bad. And it's the first part of a 3-book trilogy. The second book should be out fall of August, and the third one should be out the following summer. And as well, I'm trying to turn it into a TV series, and I believe it'll be something, a nice hit. I think that's something that people need to see and realize why a lot of our urban teens do the things that they do. And it comes from a real place. It's a fictional story, but at the same time, it comes from a real place. It comes from a place in my life, snippets of past memories, family members that have done things that I seen coming up along the way. And yeah, this is I'm a published author. I started out self-published, and yeah. I'm sorry. This is the book, The Holy City. Author Michael F. Blake. You could catch me on Facebook at Michael F. Blake, Twitter, MFB Inc., and also Instagram, MFB29.
Hi, I'm Jared Begora. My book's called The Angel Hunter. It's a supernatural thriller. It's about a religious woman that prays every day to find her missing cousin. He gets into drugs, leaves town on a whim, and they were childhood friends, and she's worried about him. She doesn't know what to do. So she gets in a daily rosary praying during her lunch hour, and this guy overhears her praying, offers to help. He's got a friend who's a detective, and it seems kind of shady, but before she can get her head around it, angels attack, and she's thrown into a world where angels protect the wicked, and the innocent are allowed to suffer and die. How did I came up with the story? Basically the premise, it reads like a supernatural or an action thriller, but I came up with the story kind of, the premise is kind of a play on free will, where, God protects sinners because they're not saved yet. He doesn't care about victims because they're already saved. So if you're against God, you're not really like a devil worshiper. Instead, you're against the paradigm, and you're kind of against the whole idea of the victims not being protected and criminals not being punished.
Hi, I'm Jack Frederickson, and I've written The Dead Caller from Chicago. It's the fourth in a semi-dismal series from St. Martin's, about a guy who lives just west of Chicago in a turret. And he's kind of an odd duck, has a little bit problem getting along with folks. These are comic mysteries. Actually, my first novel, A Safe Place for Dying, was listed in Britain as one of the top comic sellers because of its strong flavor of humor. The rest of the books carry that through. This one is about my protagonist, Deck Elstrom, who kind of wanders through life, usually kind of broke, and he stumbles into a case about Russian mobs that are working their way through Chicago, which is true. We have a strong Russian undercurrent here. And then he's also talking about his best friend who's disappeared after receiving a phone call from somebody who was supposed to be dead for 30 years. Okay? So, anyway, I've twisted a couple of plot lines together, try and beef it up, throw some humor into the thing, and so far the book seems to be selling well. It's in the top 15 bestsellers of Baker & Taylor, which is a large distributor. It's one of the two large distributors in the country.
Hello, I am Robert Goldsboro, and I am a mystery writer. I'm holding up my most recent book, Archie Meets Nero Wolfe. This book is a prequel to the Nero Wolfe series, originally written by the late Rex Stout, and I have continued this series. I had always wanted to do something about how Archie Goodwin met Nero Wolfe and how the two of them came to work together. This book, set in the New York City of 1930, tells the story of their original meeting, centered on a kidnapping case of an 8-year-old son of a very wealthy New York hotel owner. Archie Goodwin is a young man at the time of this book, 19 years old, just arrived in Manhattan from small town Ohio. And he stumbled onto this case and ended up working for Nero Wolfe for the rest of his life. So this is how it all started. I have reimagined this based in part on little clues that Rex Stout sprinkled around in his books. Mr. Stout never actually told us the story of how these two detectives met each other. He only gave us a few small clues, and it was around those clues that I built this book. It is the 8th Nero Wolfe book I have written. The other 7 were published in the 1980s and 1990s. So.
Hi, my name is David J. Walker, and I'm a mystery writer. I write crime fiction. I'm born and bred in Chicago, and so my stories are all set in Chicago. This is my 12th novel, my most recent novel, and it's called Company Orders. In the title, the word company relates to the CIA, and orders relates to holy orders, because the story is the story of a priest in Chicago, a parish priest, who gets caught up innocently in a sort of CIA project. So it basically takes place in the city of Chicago. I enjoy writing about Chicago. I've only lived in Chicago, and I know the Chicago very well. I myself had been a priest, a parish priest here. I was with the Chicago Police Department for four years or so as an investigator. And then I went to law school and I practiced law for a while. And now I'm a full-time writer. This particular story is the first novel that I've written that has as a hero, a protagonist, a priest. So, and the reason why I did that, most of my books are in a series, a private eye series, also set in Chicago, with a female private eye, woman private eye, and her husband, who is a lawyer. And he would rather run around with his wife and have adventures than practice law. The series has been going on for maybe 6 books so far in that series, and I wanted to get away from the series for a while and write a novel that is not part of a series but is a standalone novel. In this story, the priest, his name is Paul Clark, and he's a very good man who, as I said earlier, innocently gets caught up in a CIA-type project. The problem with it is that he's not sure whether the agent that he's working with is really with the CIA or is she some sort of rogue agent carrying on by herself. There is a lot of suspense. It's basically a thriller. Much of the second part takes place in the country of Guyana, which is right next to Venezuela in South America. And it involves a regime change project carried on maybe by the U.S. government in Venezuela.
Hi, I'm Frances McNamara. I'm author of Death at Woods Hole. This is the 4th in the Emily Cabot mysteries. Most of them are set in Chicago in the 1890s. This one takes the set of characters to Woods Hole on Cape Cod, where scientists from the University of Chicago and other places would go in the summer in order to do studies, and they still go to Woods Hole. So my character is a graduate student at the University of Chicago in the 1890s. She works with a police detective, and she meets real people. In this book, she meets Charles Otis Whitman and Frank Lilly, who were real scientists, and Cornelia Clapp, who was a woman scientist of the time. So they're all from Alliant Press, and there are 4 of them, starting with Death at the Fair, Death at Hull House, Death at Pullman, and those all have historical characters from Chicago also in the books. And I'm happy to say that the last 2 books were nominated for Forward Review Magazine's Book of the Year Mystery class, and Death at Woods Hole, that will be announced during American Library Association in Chicago at the end of June. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name's J. Michael Major. This is my debut novel, One Man's Castle. I came about because I got a lot of problems watching the news. It always seemed like all the criminals seemed to have all the rights and the victims and their families just seemed to be kind of statistics. So I thought, what could make a man look like a serial killer but not really be one? And what happens is his wife was killed, but the person was put away for not too long. And then all of a sudden, his house gets broken into and he kills the burglars. Well, then the question is a man a serial killer if he only kills the burglars who come into his house? And the book starts out when the killer of the homeowner's wife comes back to kill him. Well, the homeowner, Walter, turns his table on him, kills him, and he goes off to find his wife's family to tell them that justice has finally been served, and the bodies of the other burglars are found in his crawl space, and suddenly the media is making him look like the new Gacy. So we've got it where we've got the 2 police detectives who are getting used to each other. They're trying to catch Walter, but Walter is on the run deciding, you know, am I a wanted man? Do I deserve to go to prison for killing the person who killed my wife? And so we have a lot of different twists. I tried to turn some things up and down inside the book, but had a lot of fun with it. I tried to twist some things around. For instance, my coroner, instead of being sullen and morose, actually he dresses like Elvis and other rock stars because he's going to mock death. and I had a lot of fun with it. Had a lot of help with some other writers around here, and so far we've had a great time with it. The sale seems to be going great, and I'm having a lot of fun going around to bookstores promoting it. And my name's, as I said, J. Michael Major. My website is www.jmichaelmajor.com. Please visit it. I've got more about me. I used to write a lot of horror stories, but this is my first debut novel, and thanks very much for having the chance for allowing me to talk with you.
Hello, my name is Michelle May, and I wrote the Circle City Mystery series. The first novel in this series is Perfidy, and it's about a young lady who is in a desperate attempt to find her mother, and her father is also part of the police department, so it makes it quite a drama. Of course, I have a few murders and that sort of thing in it, but it's a great read. It's a police procedural. I just won the 2013 Lovey Award at the Lovis Murder Conference for this book as Best First Novel. The way I came up with this story is actually, it's set in Indianapolis, which is my hometown, but I was here during the time when Stacy Peterson disappeared, and I felt like that was a story that should be told. And so I came up with the missing wife of a police officer, but it really took some other twists and turns and came around to a completely different story. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's $16.95, and you can buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and it's also in ebook form on both of those sites.
Hi, I'm Michael Black. I'm a Chicago-based author. My latest book is Sacrificial Offerings. It's a police procedural. It's set in the city of Chicago in the south suburbs. And I got the idea because I was a police officer for about 32 years. So, that good? The book's about male and female police officer. They're a detective team. They get split up. She gets transferred to the SWAT team to investigate a possible internal problem within the team itself. And he's investigating a cold case murder that apparently is insignificant, a sort of a misdemeanor homicide, until it suddenly becomes a heater when they find out the victim is actually an old washed-up TV star. And he gets reassigned to a new partner. The new partner is a police officer who's ready for the rubber gun squad and has meaningful conversations with a hand puppet. And together everything falls together at the end so they can work out and solve the case.
Hi, I'm Julie Heisey. I'm the author of 2 series from Berkeley Prime Crime Penguin. And the first one I would like to tell you about is the White House Chef series. Olivia Paris is the executive chef at the White House. She feeds the first family and saves the world in her spare time. I have 6 in that series, the most recent of which is Fonduing Fathers, which hit the New York Times bestseller list. My first one to hit the New York Times bestseller list. I'm very excited. And from here on out, I can have that I'm on the cover of my books. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I have another series, which is the Manor House Mystery Series, the first of which is Grace Under Pressure. And Grace is in all the titles. Grace Under Pressure, Grace Interrupted, Grace Among Thieves, and then the newest, Grace Takes Off, comes out July 2nd. And I'm really excited about this one because it starts in Florence and it comes to the mansion in North Carolina. And of course, there's murder, tension, and excitement at 30,000 feet. Thank you.
I'm Diane Perrone-Gelman. I write as D.M. Perrone, and this is my very first book, my debut mystery. It's called No Less in Blood, and it's about an adoptee who goes looking for her family and ends up as a target for murder by one of them because of a 100-year-old legacy she never knew existed. And there are 2 stories that unfold within it. There's Rachel's story, the adoptee in the present day, and then there's the story of a young woman named Marianne Schlegel, who's the subject of the legacy, who ran away from her home in the Iron Range in northern Minnesota, went to Chicago, the World's Fair, in 1893, and vanished, and nobody ever knew what happened to her. And 100-odd years later, Rachel comes from Chicago up to the Iron Range looking for her family and ends up kind of retracing Marianne's journey, and she finds out there's a connection between them that could lead to murder. I came up with the idea for this back when Devil in the White City was published, and which is a marvelous book. And I was reading about the White City, the World's Fair, and the serial killer that was operating at the same time, Henry Mudgett. H.H. Holmes, I think was what he's known as. And I was fascinated by the juxtaposition of the fair on the one hand and all this creativity, and then that same creativity being applied to murder by this sick guy. And then I thought, well, what if you were one of the families of one of the women who disappeared? And that kind of gave me Mary Ann's story. And then I had also always wanted to do a story about an adoptee looking for her family that was kind of that would kind of have a gothic novel ending to it, because I am an adoptee and I haven't gone looking for my family, but I'm fascinated by the stories of people that do. And that gave me the idea for Rachel going and searching for where she came from and then stumbling across something that is a threat to her and that she has to try to survive and triumph over. And then I ended up putting the two of them together because I'm also a history nut and I love Chicago history, and that gave me an excuse to basically write about a little bit of everything that interests me.
Hi, my name is Tim Chapman. This is my novel, which was just released last week. It's called Bright and Yellow, Hard and Cold. It takes place here in Chicago, but over two different time periods, the 1930s during the Great Depression and in the present. I'm a former forensic scientist for the Chicago Police Department, so naturally one of my characters is a forensic scientist, although he works for the Illinois State Police. The part that takes place in the 1930s involves a poor sharecropper from Kentucky who moves up here with his wife and gets involved with gangsters, the Marbacher gang to be specific. And in the present, those gangsters have supposedly left a cache of gold that a serial killer is trying to track down, and the forensic scientist sort of, gets involved because he's trying to prove that a young man who's been accused of those crimes is innocent. So, like I said, it takes place over two time periods, but all of them here in Chicago. I love Chicago history. Thank you.